Hello and welcome to the Generals Reviews. I'm Chris McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80 from the Full Force podcast, and I'm joining Justin Bell from What's on Joe Mind and GeneralsJoes to bring you this review of Hasbro's 2-pack, Duke and Tombstone. Before Justin takes a look at the figures, let's go into the history of both characters from their first appearances in the franchise through to now. Let's start with Duke. This could take a while. Due to the extraordinary amount of Duke figures available, we will zoom through this at pace because I realise nobody has the spare 3 years to watch a video. Duke is one of the main characters in the G.I. Joe franchise with a whopping 51 figure versions and multiple reimaginings in almost all of the different media associated with G.I. Joe. Interestingly enough, Duke was first made available as a mail-away figure in 1983 and then again as a carded figure the following year. He came bagged with a file card, green helmet, with or without holes in some cases, green rifle, black binoculars and a tan backpack, and the mail-away came with a tiny American flag decal. Aww. His head and torso were completely new at the time, with his other parts coming from Doc, Major Blood and Gung Ho. Due to the almost nauseating patriotism in his heroic all-American hero demeanour, Duke has been the poster boy for G.I. Joe for many years now, and even made his way overseas as a major player in the UK and European toy lines and comics. He was a constant fixture in the Sunbow cartoon series, even avoiding certain death from a snake to the heart in the 1987 animated movie. Thanks, Serpentor. Had the reaction to Optimus Prime's death in the Transformers movie prior to the Joe film coming out been different, we may have had an alternative First Sergeant in the cartoon from that point onwards. Duke was later released repainted and with a very slight change in the build for the Tiger Force team in 1988. He got new arms that we also saw on Hit and Run and a Cobra officer's waist. Duke remained unchanged until 1992 when his third version was released with a brand new design and a more up-to-date military look. As well as a tan and bright red camo colour deco, Duke also got a ride-on firing rocket launcher to play with too. The following year saw another new take on the figure, this time in the Battle Corps lineup. The new and entirely original build had a helmet moulded to the head sculpt, and his deco had been subdued from the last version, with a tan and dark reddy brown camo pattern. In the same year, Duke was added to the Star Brigade roster and looked like some kind of Hulk cyborg. His left arm was a rocket firing launcher, of course. In 1994 we saw a redesign for the Star Brigade commander that allowed for much better articulation, and other than his waist and legs which were used for Skycreeper, he was an original build. The original mould, mixed with some original Gung Ho parts, was revisited for the 1997 Army Recon mission set with the Silver Mirage cycle. All of a sudden Duke has red hair, and other than the Tiger Force version, was a big change from the blonde-haired hero in previous incarnations. Weird. Version 8 continued the hair colour curveballs with what could have been an homage to Tiger Force Duke's hair colour change. In the year 2000, this version came in a 2-pack with Sidetrack for the Real American Hero collection and used Duke version 3's mould. In 2002, Duke was redesigned again, this time in the new sculpt style and in 2 different colour decos. The green version came in a 2-pack with Cobra Commander version 11 and the tan version with the Cobra Commander version 12 in the G.I. Joe vs Cobra range. In the same year, Duke was redone for the same line and packed with Ripper version 2, however this version was repacked in a number of different ways in the following years. 2003 with a mission disc, 2004 with gum bits, a slight paint finish variant was packed with the Spy Troops VHS 3-pack that also included Snake Eyes version 14 and Cobra Commander version 13. And finally the same variant was also released as a Valor vs Venom single card figure. The same mould was also used for the version 12 Night Force Duke in 2003 that came with Pit Viper. Still following? In 2004 Duke gets 6 more figures, and amazingly that isn't the record year for the character. Version 13 included a nunchuck swinging action feature by pressing the figures back. The same mould without the nunchuck action was used again for Valor vs Venom version 16, and in between we get a Walmart exclusive made up of version 13 Snake Eyes and a repaint of the original Duke and Gung Ho's arms and waist for the 6-pack Anti-Venom Task Force set. In 2005, Duke returned as a vehicle driver again, this time with the Desert Humvee. The figure had a new head sculpt but borrowed everything else from Rollbar. The paint scheme was reminiscent of the tan and red camo seen in the earlier versions of the figure. Version 20, yes we are still nowhere near done, was a green and black repaint of version 16, was the last of the new build era carded in Valor vs Venom 2-pack with Overkill version 6. And finally for 2005, 2 more original version repaints. The comic pack Duke got a new head sculpt but kept that Duke and Gung Ho parts build we saw previously, and the original head sculpt returned for the Toys R Us exclusive Heavy Assault Squad set. Now we get to the modern sculpt era. To save time, let's zip through these repaints first. Version 23 was released in the first G.I. Joe Battle Pack, and then later on 25th Anniversary Card in 2007, and then 24, 25, 26, 28 and 29 were all repaints of that version in 2008. They were packed in numerous ways like single cards, 3-packs, comic packs and DVD sets. Interestingly, version 29 had a new screaming face head sculpt to go along with the slightly repainted body. In and around that group of repaints was a comic pack Duke that used the body of Snake Eyes version 28 and the same head sculpt we'd seen on version 23. Version 30 was the Resolute Duke design taken from the short-lived but highly entertaining G.I. Joe Resolute cartoon. He was a completely new mould and had a subdued and practical deco which matched the darker undertone of the cartoon. This was the first Duke of 2009 and it turned out to be a record year for the character, getting a huge 11 versions. Duke got in another DVD pack titled Greatest Battles with Cobra Commander version 40, Snake Eyes version 39 and Storm Shadow version 29. That's big numbers. He was a mishmash of parts in a more recognisable colour scheme. A new torso, waist and upper arms were added to the version 30 Duke for the Resolute box set release and his deco was changed to the grey and white camo. That leads us into the Channing Tatum phase, which brought us some solid figures even if the film was a tad disappointing. Duke got 8 Channing Tatum head sculpt figures in 2009 that ranged from single carded releases to multi-figure packs. His first scene in the film with tan deco, the black future tactical deco, the controversial accelerator suit version, Attack on the Pit HQ set, the Joe vs Cobra set, the Rescue Mission set, Troop Builder 5-pack and finally the Wave 5 black and blue version. Amazingly, that brings us to version 41 and a return to the Resolute cartoon in a new battle set from 2010. Using the torso and waist from version 35, Snake Eyes, and a few other mix and match Duke parts from previous versions, we get the Duke that we see in the Arctic Rocket Pack plane jump scene. Hasbro veered away from using Channing Tatum's head sculpt in the first round of Pursuit of Cobra figures and instead used a brand new head. The Pursuit of Cobra figures are widely regarded as some of the best action figures Hasbro has ever produced. Another new Duke was produced in 2011 that had the most insane missile launcher setup seen since Fast Draw came onto the scene. Actually no, make that Mace. Either or, we got new parts with this guy apart from the legs which were previously seen on Zartan version 20. A mix of new and old parts came together to create the Renegades Duke in the same year for the 30th anniversary era figures and looked pretty cool. Really would have loved to see more from that cartoon. Shame. A reworking of the figure was released again this time for a Renegades box set. Version 46 and 49 were the Dollar General figures, 47 was the Retaliation single card release with a drastically new design and brighter green and silver colour deco, as well as a new Channing Tatum likeness, 48 was the highly controversial return to the 5 points of articulation as the Ghost Hawk 2 vehicle driver, and then finally version 50, which gave us another Retaliation single carded figure that had a lighter tan camo deco and a Channing Tatum head sculpt. Phew, that's all the Dukes. You are welcome, Diana. I'm obviously not including the newest Duke, because Justin will take you through that. Tombstone has a similar history. Actually, that's it. A new character with no background other than the file card that doesn't go into that much detail at all. I wonder if we'll start seeing him in the comics soon. Anyway, that's all from me. Go look at Justin's fingers now. I'm gonna go to sleep. Whew.
This is Justin from GeneralsJoes.com, and I'm back with another Generals Joe Intel video review. I know it's been a while since I've been in here putting some YouTube videos up, but I couldn't help myself. I was out on a business trip last week, stopped into a Toys R Us about 70 miles away, and found a couple of new 2016 G.I. Joe 2-packs and 3-packs. So obviously pretty excited seeing new G.I. Joe product on the shelf. That's not something that happens very often, so I jumped at the chance and I was able to grab the 2-pack Duke and Tombstone, which is great because that was the set I was probably most looking forward to. And I also managed to grab the 3-pack, the G.I. Joe 3-pack that comes with Shooter, Outback, and Falcon. They did not have the Cobra one, unfortunately. I was hoping to get that too, but as it stands, I picked up this 2-pack as well as the 3-pack. And I'm going to do a couple separate videos, and we'll look at this one first. And here's the packaging kind of for Duke and Tombstone. It is relatively vanilla. I do like the art on the back. Very nice looking artwork, actually. For Duke and Tombstone himself. You got the multilingual stuff going on the back here. The front, I mean, it's the same packaging we saw for the 50th anniversary in 2014. It's the same packaging we saw for the toy line last year, 2015. Very basic kind of blues and blacks, a very general G.I. Joe Real American Hero logo right here. We've got Duke over here on the right-hand side, and, well, it's on my left, and Tombstone on my right. I was excited to get this set because it's not very often also that we get a new G.I. Joe character, or a new Cobra character, as the case may be. So I was extremely happy to see this. This was the only 2-pack that was still there. So that was very cool because Tombstone was one of the figures I really liked. You can see, you know, I've been doing quite a few of these video reviews now, and I haven't improved my technique one bit. So hopefully you'll stick with it and check this out as I crack this baby open and see what's inside. Okay, I am back, and I have cracked these babies open, and we're going to take a look at them. First thing we're going to take a look at, though, is the file cards. We've got file cards that were included inside the packaging for both Duke and Tombstone. I was pretty excited to read, especially Tombstone's file card, just since he's a new character. Here's Duke's. You know, pretty typical stuff. You know, Hauser, Conrad S, all the same detail that we've seen before. He does have some kind of a unique thing at the bottom of it, where he faces the Cobra leader Tombstone. He meets a foe who is equal in rank and combat skill, a Psyops warrior without equal in the art of terrifying enemies into surrender. There's Duke's file card. Then we have Tombstone's file card, which I really wanted to check out, but unfortunately, it's it's kind of vanilla. He's a mysterious, high-ranking member of the Cobra organization. He strikes fear in his enemies through a combination of strong, tactical leadership and cunning psychological manipulation. His battlefield brilliance engenders deep loyalty among Cobra troops. When he faces Conrad Duke Hauser in battle, he meets his equal in leadership and skill, and finds a warrior who does not succumb easily to mind tricks and phantom terrors. So he's a Cobra Psyops specialist, which is kind of cool. We haven't really had that before. We had Psych Out on the G.I. Joe side, but we never really had a Cobra version of that. So that's somewhat neat, but I do wish there was a little bit more background, a little bit more creativity in the file cards. You know, if only Hasbro knew somebody who'd written, a number of G.I. Joe novels who would be more than happy to write file cards for them, you know, they could maybe tap into that resource. But, unfortunately, I guess there's nobody out there like that. So, oh well. But here is Duke. Now, a lot of people thought that maybe when they were releasing Duke, they would go kind of the 30th anniversary route, make him, kind of the definitive vintage version of the character, and they definitely did not do that. This is certainly a Duke that is reminiscent of his vintage look, with the tan shirt and the green pants, but is not your typical 30th anniversary kind of modernization of the vintage version. A lot of people wanted to see kind of like the 50th anniversary Flint carried over into a Duke design. I kind of wanted to see that too. I know I get sick and tired of some of those vintage homages, but in Duke's case, I think it was one that was really necessary just because so many other characters have gotten that treatment, but Duke has not. Instead, they went a little bit of a different direction. They gave him, I haven't cracked his vest off yet, so I don't really know the torso that's underneath there, but I do know his arms are from Data Viper, the Cobra Data Viper from the G.I. Joe Retaliation line. The head is the Pursuit of Cobra Duke head, which is good. That's a good head sculpt. I like that one. And his legs are from the G.I. Joe Retaliation, G.I. Joe Trooper, I believe, or Ultimate Duke, or those, one of those two. I think the G.I. Joe Trooper. Once again, I have done my research before shooting this video. Now, one thing I'm wondering if they did, I know the foot pegs are notoriously difficult to get in the feet of the Retaliation G.I. Joe Trooper. In Duke's case, they were pretty easy to get in there, so I'm wondering if they might have done a little retooling there. Maybe not, but I was kind of curious about that because they fit on the battle stands really well. I was a little bit disappointed when I saw the Retaliation G.I. Joe legs because they don't fit on these foot pegs very well, but this Duke does, so I'm wondering if there was some adjustments made there. He's got this nice vest, which I believe was from the Cobra Shock Trooper from Pursuit of Cobra originally. He's got his little trusty pistol and machine gun and his backpack. And obviously all the accessories come off. We all know that by now. The color scheme is decent. It's evocative of the vintage version. The torso and arms, etc., are a little bit more yellowish than they are tan, but they still work pretty well. They still look good. Pretty close to the original version, if not identical. He's got that little gold star in his arm, like all the figures from this era seem to. I love the Data Viper arms. They are some of those arms that are, really detailed, really sculpted nicely. They're baggy, but they have really good range of motion, as you can see here. He can stand and hold his weapon really well, which is good. That's a pet peeve of mine. I like my military figures to be able to look like they're realistically firing a machine gun. Not everybody shares that feeling, but that's kind of my thought on it. And he can, which is good. The paint applications on the vest are okay. Green base with black straps and little tan pouches. The tan there doesn't match the tan of the shirt underneath, but I guess that's not really important. He's got the little scar on his cheek. So yeah, that's Duke. Is there much to be really excited about? These are all parts we've seen before. The build is okay. It kind of looks like he might be an Arctic version of Duke, sort of. I mean, the baggy arms, don't really look like a standard military attire. They look like something that he might wear in cold Arctic climate. So that's kind of a question I have. He also comes with this kind of mini heavy machine gun, which the clip pops off. This came with the the Pursuit of Cobra Jungle Duke originally, and they repurpose it for him here too. And he comes with that pistol that I already removed. He's a good figure. He's fine. He doesn't blow me away. And I do kind of wish they perhaps had gone a more vintage accurate route. And I took his vest off and can verify that I really should keep it on because that torso looks pretty terrible with those arms. That looks like a Rise of Cobra, like breaker torso, but it's very smooth. And when you compare that to the really baggy arms, it just does not look right. So obviously the figure is meant to keep that vest on. So you'll probably not want to take that off because the figure does not look as he should without that vest on. I imagine they picked the smooth torso so the vest could fit more easily. It probably wouldn't fit over the Data Viper torso. So anyway, once you put the vest on, it's not even an issue because you can't even see that smooth torso underneath there. And that's Duke. That is the Duke half of this 2-pack, the only 2-pack that I was able to find. It's a good-looking figure, but you kind of feel like maybe a little bit more realistic tan would have been good. Here's the Pursuit of Cobra version that is still one of my favorite versions of Duke. Even though it's not very vintage inspired, it's a little bit more realistic. Some of the color breaks on this 2016 version are a little strange. He's got you can see the cuffs of his pants are black to match his boots. I'm not really sure I've never seen pants that kind of work like that. But this is if they'd done this build maybe in this color palette, it probably would have been nice. I know a lot of people also kind of wish they'd given him the 50th anniversary Flint treatment. So I could imagine that build with those colors or maybe a little bit drabber colors, kind of a mixture between all three of them, would have been a nice touch. Instead, we get a Duke that is fine, but is I kind of wish they committed to something. This kind of feels like a Duke that, well, let's kind of do a new version, but kind of do a vintage version and kind of cobble something together that will make everybody happy, when I wish they kind of just had committed to one or the other. If you're going to do something new, do something really new and really exciting. If you're going to do something vintage inspired, do something truly vintage inspired that the vintage enthusiasts will love. Instead, we've got a kind of cobbled up go-between that doesn't really go one way or the other. That being said, he's not a bad figure. It's a Toys R Us exclusive, or Toys R Us Big Bad Toy Store exclusive. I'm not sure what's up with Entertainment Earth. They usually share these exclusives, but I have not seen any indication of that this time. But Big Bad Toy Store does have them. And he's fine. He's good. He's good. But of course, in my mind, the real star of the 2-pack was going to be Tombstone, because he was a new character that obviously hasn't been released before. And so I'm glad to see that. Anytime you get a new Cobra character, it's very cool, because it's not something that Hasbro has done a whole lot of since the Pursuit of Cobra line. I guess that's kind of a lie. I mean, they did Data Viper, and there was some Shadow Tracker and Pursuit of Cobra. There's a lot of options to get us some new characters, but Tombstone is like a really unique new Cobra individual who looks pretty neat. That head sculpt is really nice. He obviously got whacked in that right eye pretty hard back in his Cobra Trooper days. He's got a nice scarred face, kind of uneven there, which is a very cool touch. His color scheme is, I'm not really sure how to explain it. It's a mixture of black and purple and white, which they don't necessarily all blend seamlessly together. The white shoulder pads really kind of stand out. It would have been cool maybe as a more metallic color. That white is kind of strange. But anyway, he's a pretty decent looking dark colored figure. He's got the what looks like the Retaliation Snake Eyes arms, which is cool. I really like those arms. They're very well articulated, very good elbow range of motion. He's got the Pursuit of Cobra Firefly legs. He's got the Pursuit of Cobra Firefly vest. That's horribly out of focus. Hopefully that's better. Little Cobra symbol in the corner there. Anytime we get a new Cobra character, I love it, especially as a Kindle Worlds author. I'm already kind of crafting a little story with Tombstone and Duke and the associated 2016 figure releases, so I'm excited to get that story out there. Tombstone will, of course, play a pretty key role. In some ways, I'm glad they didn't really develop his character in the file card. In other ways, I kind of wish they'd given us a little bit more to work with. But, I'm happy to kind of take that ball and run with it. And, again, Hasbro, if you're watching and you need some help writing some good file cards, you know how to get in touch with me. So let me know. But that's the back of the figure. As with Duke, the vest is removable. I'm doing this on the fly. I literally just cracked these guys open. So I'm really hoping that I'm not going to bust neck pegs or do anything like that. I wanted to see what parts and pieces were under here. Okay, looks like he's got the Pursuit of Cobra Firefly torso, like the legs and the vest, which is fine. I'll keep that vest on. I like that torso. It doesn't really jive with the arms, though. Same with Duke. Almost seems as if, which, you can't blame them. They focus a lot of their design attention on the arms and legs, and the torso just kind of, as long as it fits in the vest, it's okay because people won't usually see it. I do wish a little bit more thought was put into torso choices in case you did want to use other vests or no vests at all. What's the point of having a removable vest if the figure looks stupid without it? But anyway, all that aside, he's a neat figure. He doesn't blow me away. But I like the new character. I like that he's a PsyOps guy. That's a pretty interesting choice. Although I'm not sure how PsyOps kind of plays into being a field commander, because it says he is, Duke's equal in command, I guess. He's kind of, they said at JoeCon, I believe, that he was sort of the opposite Duke, where he's kind of holds the same role as Duke does for G.I. Joe, but on the Cobra side, which would make him essentially a field commander of some kind. But he's also a PsyOps, a psychological operations guy. So I'm not sure how those all play off each other, but whatever the case may be, he is a pretty cool figure. He comes with some really bizarre weapons. I just had that assault rifle in his hand, which is cool, but then he's got the little weird machine gun that came with the Hiss drone. From the Rise of Cobra Commander, which I like the gun. I just don't know how much sense it makes. And he's got this, weirdo gas canister weapon, which originally came with G.I. Joe Retaliation Cobra Trooper, I believe. And he's got, one of Rise of Cobra Baroness's wackadoo pulse rifles, which again is a cool looking weapon, although it doesn't look all that realistic. The figure itself has really nice sculpted details, mostly thanks to the Pursuit of Cobra parts and the Retaliation parts. I love the little arm pads here that that the Retaliation Snake Eyes gives. The little armored shoulder pads are great. There's lots of neat sculpted aesthetic. The paint doesn't necessarily do it a whole lot of favors, but still, it's I can kind of see what they're going for. And he looks different. I mean, that's a good thing. He's a new Cobra character that really stands out from the crowd. He doesn't kind of borrow design aesthetics from other Cobra characters, which is I'm all for. It's really nice. It is kind of interesting how this set how the Cobra side of these 2016 figures kind of jives a little bit with G.I. Joe Convention set, the Tanks for the Memories set back in 2007, which came with, I think it came with Claymore, who was a pretty well-known Sunbow Cobra, kind of field commander type of guy. And it came with some female Cobra Troopers, kind of like you see here in 2016. But anyway, Tombstone is nice. He's a good figure. He's nothing spectacular, but I love the fact that we have a new Cobra character to pull from. I'm really excited to kind of interject him into my G.I. Joe universe and write a story based on him, putting him and Duke off each other. They're decent figures. They're available now at Toys R Us and at BigBadToyStore.com. I think Hasbro did a decent job getting these out to shelves. I'm really excited that there is product in 2016. That was certainly not a given at the beginning of the year, I don't think. I don't believe many of us were confident in the fact that we'd be getting more figures this year. But Hasbro did come through and make that happen, which is great. The 3-packs look really cool too. I can't wait to dig in. I haven't even opened the 3-pack with Shooter yet, so I am obviously very excited to do that as well. Shooter has been a character that I've wanted to see in plastic form ever since she first appeared in G.I. Joe Classified. So anyway, Duke versus Tombstone 2-pack was $14.99 at Toys R Us. It's a pretty decent 2-pack. It's probably my the one I was most looking forward to, and it certainly didn't disappoint. They're great dramatic colors, not perfect, but pretty decent all told. And for 2016 G.I. Joe figures, I will certainly take them. So this is Justin from GeneralsJoes.com. Big thanks to Chris McLeod from the Full Force Podcast for hopefully putting some magic touches on this bad boy. He doesn't even know this video is coming. Surprise, Chris. But we'll get this up there, and I'll be doing some written reviews shortly. Thank you very much for watching.
That's another one for the archives. Thanks for watching this review by Justin Bell of GeneralsJoes.com and What's on Joe Mind, and from myself, Chris McLeod, aka Diagnostic 80 from the Full Force. If you've enjoyed the video, why not subscribe to the channel and let us know what you think on any of our numerous social networking platforms, with the exception of Snapchat for obvious reasons. Goodbye, and see you next time for another Generals review.